Hey everybody, welcome to Tavern Talks. I am your host for the evening with Beaker, of course, that way, sorry. And we have not one, but two guests from D3 at Sea. This is episode 150, so thank you all for coming to hang out with us for 150 episodes. Tonight, if this is your first time, this is a bunch of people sitting around the tavern talking. You also are in the tavern, so you're welcome to chime in any way, shape, or form in the chat room there. And ask questions, comments, cheer, have a drink, enjoy yourselves. Before we get started, of course, thanks everybody for coming. Real quick, can you just give us your 30-second elevator pitch on what D3 at Sea is? And if you can sync it, that'd be great, but I know that's pretty difficult.
Pretty awesome.
No pun intended.
If we could synchronize our elevator pitch for D3. I guess I'll kick it off. D3 at Sea, we are a tabletop role-playing cruise experience. We go out annually. We have a week-long cruise out of usually a bunch of different ports every year. Or not every year. We change up our ports every year. And we have a whole bunch of GMs that come on board with us, and they run awesome games all week long for our players. We also have events and special excursions just for our players, as well as amazing swag. That's the 30 seconds pitch.
That works.
Aaron, do you have anything awesome to throw on there?
You nailed it.
Thanks.
Awesome. So, two guests, we're going to ask each one of you the same questions. Start out with asking 3 questions to every guest. First one is, when did you get involved with TTRPGs? Either one of you can pick that. Start.
Aaron, you want to kick off?
Yeah, I'll start with that. I actually started a little later than I think most people did in my social circles. I started when I was 18, and I actually had a friend that I worked with when I worked at, believe it or not, I worked at a Hollywood Video when I was 18. So not even like the name brand video rental store, but kind of like the off-brand one. But our coworker was like, "Hey, I play D&D every week." I was like, "I've always wanted to do that," and so I got involved with his group, and then the rest is history. I actually still play in a D&D group with the GM from when I was 18. I have a weekly game with him still.
That alone is epic.
Yeah, it wasn't consecutive, right? It's been on and off for decades now, but almost 2 straight decades. But yeah.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yeah.
I also got a late start. I was not a nerd growing up necessarily. And then when I was in my early 20s, I got introduced to LARPing. So that was my gateway drug. Went straight from like not being a nerd to full on bottom of the totem pole nerd. And then after I started doing that, somebody introduced me to D&D, and I've been playing it pretty regularly ever since. So I won't age myself, but it's well over a decade. And there was at one point where I had a serious addiction, and I was playing in 4 games a week. Like long-term campaigns.
Been there, done
yep.
that.
Mm-hmm. It was a problem. I've cut down on my habit now. I'm down to 2.5 games a week. So.
Okay.
How's the half game work?
We don't play every week. We play once a month, but we play for like 4 hours. So.
That's only one game though. 4 hours is only one game. Wait, what is your normal games?
Oh, normal games are usually like 3 hours. Okay. Yeah. 3-ish hours. But the 4-hour one, we record it. So
okay.
It's there's a lot more to it than the other ones where I get to just enjoy playing.
Mm-hmm. I have finally gotten back to actually playing away from a camera, which is so much better sometimes. I'm not gonna lie.
It's nice to get to just be at the table and not thinking about performing and entertaining, and always being on.
Yeah, right. 100%. So the second question I ask is, what kept you involved? So one thing we like to find out is what was that spark? What was the reasoning from just going, this was a cool game, like I played it once, it was good to go, to no, like I continued to play. Like what kept your interest?
Yeah, the I think the biggest thing for me at first was, I mean, we all know what it's like to play D&D for the first time, and you're like, it hooks you and you're addicted, and you're like, I want to play all day every day for the next like 2 weeks straight, if you can find the people that also have that interest. But I mean, after that, initial excitement wears off, and you kind of you kind of settle into a routine or what have you for what you do normally play with. I had, that GM that I was mentioning that originally I started playing with when I was 18. He didn't have the availability to run games all the time, so someone else needed to step up to the plate. So I actually ended up pretty early on in my experience with tabletop, became the new GM, and I just learned by doing. And I'm a very creative person, so like the ability to create worlds and create situations and see how players react to it and collaboratively tell stories was a huge hook for me, and became kind of like my primary creative outlet, and creative expression in my life. So it's really been a huge part of my life ever since I discovered it. And it led me into writing, and it led me into getting good at Photoshop to make maps, and supporting artists on Patreon that make all this really cool content that really enhances any sort of digital game that you're running. So yeah, it's mainly the creative aspect of it, and the community too, right? The community of being able to sit down and play with not just your friends, but even with strangers, and you make fast friends, and you're all part of the same community, and you all belong there. So that was really what hooked me and kept me involved over the decades that I've been playing.
Awesome.
Mine was kind of twofold. Finding GMs that told incredible stories that really sucked me in, and like, I want to see where this is going. Like, my current GM has built an entire world. I mean, full on, has history, religions, holidays, everything. It's so immersive and so incredible. So it's almost like being in a book. And that, as a reader, is really exciting for me. Like, we're writing the story together, and that's really awesome. The other less serious part is I really enjoy playing characters that are not me in the slightest, and put me out of my comfort zone and into a completely different person, and coming up with maybe unusual characters outside of the, like, everybody's first game, you have that guy that his entire family is murdered and he was raised by wolves and now he's a super cool rogue. The classic, like, characters. And so I played, just a barbarian in that first game, and it was really fun. But then I found I had more fun playing things that were out of my comfort zone, things that were a little weird or a little creepy or goofy, depending on what the campaign called for. And that part of it, that aspect of it, is really exciting to me. You're creating this story, but then also I get to play somebody that's a little weird. So yeah,
we're gonna come back to that because I'm curious on some of that.
Yeah.
My last question, and I don't know if it works for both of you or not, but, and I think you've already answered the question without knowing it, is when did you pick up the mantle? So when did you go from I'm going to be a player to I'm going to be a game master? And I know, Aaron, you had mentioned that you kind of hit the forever DM moment where if I don't pick it up, we don't play.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that was it for me, was the just out of necessity. It was obviously very, intimidating. We all know how that is as new GMs. It's super intimidating. You walk into it understanding fully that you don't have any idea what you're doing, but you're just all there to have fun, and you want to do a good job, and there's like a lot of pressure, but you do it because you love the game, and you understand that like everyone at the table also loves the game. So if it comes down to we don't play, or we play a game where I have no idea how to GM a game, but we're just going to have fun anyway, I'll choose the latter every time for sure. And it's, once you do that, and you kind of learn how to GM, and you do that for a little while, and you kind of get comfortable with it, then it becomes a different level on its own of sort of being addicted to the hobby, I guess you could say, but just really enjoying it a lot, to the point where you just can't get enough of it. You can't wait for your next opportunity to do it. There's nothing better than seeing your players really enjoying themselves with a story that you created or with a scenario that you concocted, and you see them come up with this crazy solution that you did not even consider. But that's the whole point, right? So for those moments of discovery and just being able to share that with everybody is it's makes you, like you said, it's a forever DM situation where you're like, yep, I'm gonna do this from here on out forever, basically. That's how good it is.
Yeah, I've only GM'd one time, and it was for a one shot. Um, and I don't know how anybody does it on a regular basis because I spent 3 months preparing for
Wow.
a one shot, and did so much research and had so much planning, and it was literally for like a 3 hour game. So I don't know how anybody does it on a regular basis. It was enjoyable. I don't know that I would do a long campaign. I feel like it would take over too much of my life, and I would just agonize over it all the time.
What system was it?
It was Twisted Tales, I
Mm.
want to say. Yeah, it's a really small system that we picked up. It was really fun. It was a genie that hired these mercenaries to take over his job of granting wishes for a day so he could have a vacation. And they had to, their purpose was to twist the wishes as much as possible. And if they twisted them enough, then they got like extra points or whatever. And it was like, it was a whole thing. But it was really fun to see how messed up they could get it, and then to throw like wishes at them from somebody that they didn't want to twist a wish for, and to see how they would still be able to do it. It was really fun. But I don't know that I could do GMing on a regular basis without like, excuse me, well, I have 30 maps and 50 books, and I've not done my day job at all like for 2 years. Yeah,
So let
so
me ask a quick question with that then, and I'm curious to see how much of your 3 to 6 months of preparation was actually used at the table.
Oh, a good bit of it, I would say. Like, because I had to come up with, the important thing was to take the characters' backstories and have the story be a part of it as well. So some of the people that wished were a part of their backstory. So I had to do research on each of the different characters that were involved, and then it was like 12 different wishes, I think, maybe 10. So I had to write all of the wishes, all of the like scenarios of where they were, a good bit of it was. But then there was a lot of improv because, of course, I don't know what they're gonna do to twist the wish, so I had to move with it, and I'm not used to that. I'm used to like being the one that is the improver, not
Right.
yeah. So it was really, really fun, but I don't know if it's for me.
I definitely was originally that person, prepping 3 6 months out to make sure I run one show or one game. And then I think about the fourth or fifth time I had ran a game online before with people, 10 minutes in, the whole game went on a wild goose chase outward of anything I had ever thought about prepping. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm not prepping as much as I do anymore. And that's kind of where it started.
Yeah,
I'm one
I'm
of those.
kind of in the.
Oh, go ahead.
I'll say I'm kind of in the midst of that myself because I got a game I'll be starting up at the end of the summer, and it'll be the first one that I'll be leading. So I'm kind of in the midst of just like, oh shit, am I prepared enough? Is it too little? I don't know. We'll find out.
Aaron
That's a
does a
fun
lot
one.
you do a lot of prep for your games too.
Yeah, typically. I mean, it depends. I have a campaign that's been running for about 3 years, and I front loaded all of that effort in the world creation and everything. So I put so much effort into it up front that I can kind of coast on it because I know enough about the world to kind of improv a lot of it and have it be lore accurate because I know everything about it. But there are other games where I'll run and I'll really only prep, a week or two ahead of time. But yeah, it's some of it gets used, a lot of it gets used. If you're smart GM, all of it will get used, just not when you expect it to get used.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's I usually only prep maybe an hour or two between each session with sort of the one that I don't have an overarching story. But I've been GMing for almost 20 years now, so I'm pretty practiced at what works for me, so it's not overwhelming. But when I first started, it was a very very different story. My first probably 5 to maybe even 10 years was, like I said, I front loaded all the work for my campaigns where I just obsessed over the world and the story. But that's that's beneficial because now I have that repository just in my brain,
Oh yeah.
living there rent free, where other more important things should probably be living. But we don't get to pick who rents the rooms in our brains. So we just gotta accommodate them.
Right. Man, I feel like it's like you and I are telling the same exact story. That's how I'm like, there's so much stuff that lives rent free in my brain that shouldn't be there, but oh well.
Absolutely.
Are you, when you run your games, like, how easy is it for you when the players go off track and take you in a completely different direction for you to flow with it? Like, do you find it relatively easy to adjust to if they're like, I don't want to go down that corridor, I want to go down this corridor, and you're like, I had nothing down that corridor, great. Like,
I mean, there's tricks that you can use to make sure that players get kind of where you need them to go. But I will say, for most parts, if the and I'm going to say that it's going to probably sound a little silly, is like, if the player's story sounds better than what I came up with, I'm just going to follow that story because they're already invested at that point. And then from that end, we don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about much. All I have to do is kind of through my head go, okay, are they going to run into an encounter? If they are, what kind of encounter am I looking at? Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of follow the trail with them until we get somewhere that either seems like it's something I need to interject in, or we're just going to follow it to the end of the night, and then it'll be a prep day that next day or that week to make sure that that's then ready for them. I think for me, that's kind of how I've developed over time. But like Aaron said, sometimes you've been doing this so long that you just start pulling pieces from other things very quickly, to the point where you blend things together, and that's how it moves forward.
Yeah, it helps a lot. That repository, right, that you can pull from at any given point in time.
Yeah.
But it takes so long to build up to that point that it's not feasible to do that, at least for several years into a single like game world. But I resolved early in my GM career where I was like, I very intentionally was like, I'm going to make one world, and it's going to have everything in it, as most GMs do when they first start out. They way overcompensate, and they're just like, it's going to have everything, and since it has everything, I'll only ever need to remember things once, and it'll be the one world that I run all of my games in forever and forever. Yeah.
And then that doesn't happen.
Correct. You're always adding new stuff to it, but the repository helps, where you know enough about the world to turn on a dime and be able to pull from other areas of what you know about your world.
My favorite GM created an entire campaign based off of a mobile app game, like a mobile game.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
It was phenomenal. It was so good. And then to find out, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 months in, that she's like, yeah, it's just a game that I play on my phone. And that's where I got like the majority of the content, or like the world at least, for this. And I was like, I guess you find inspiration everywhere. I don't know. So
that's a good point, and it's definitely a good helper for newer GMs and veteran GMs. Take modules that are out there and make them yours. Like, let them do the hard work. Like I said, we're running an Icewind Dale on Monday nights. I don't have to create the setting. The setting is there for me. The main plot is there. I just add what the players want in there and add what the repercussions of what they're doing is adding to it. And it made it 100 times easier to prep. So, I mean, one of your biggest... I know one of the guys that are on your cruise, Jason, he runs in Barovia like it, and he knows all about Barovia, but Barovia has been created and was created in the second edition, so there's 20 plus years of content that he can pull from as well, which helps him a ton. So, not to mention, it creates so much more.
Yeah, Jason has a kind of a unique situation. I kind of feel like he is the king of Barovia because he's run multiple campaigns in it that have been on his Twitch streams. I mean, shout out to his company Realmsmith. You know, he's done multiple seasons of Barovia content with all new characters and all new casts. But not just that, but for a while there, he actually had players on his Discord server playing NPCs that could impact.
Yeah,
Oh, that's so funny.
So he had people that were playing NPCs, and they all had levels, and you could level up, and all kinds of fun stuff that you could do on the server, so that when they were doing their live streams, so he had not just Barovia, but it was like Barovia on steroids with lots of people that wanted to be a part of it. It was fun.
Yeah, it was a community project that definitely was a passion of love. I will say it got way too big, and it could not be contained at that point. But,
yeah, for sure.
The last season was very. They added a ton to the Discord server to the point where most of us were like, I don't even know how to navigate this. Like, to get to places, you have to be able to put certain commands and things.
Yeah, we had conversations with him about when he was adding a lot of new stuff to the Discord of the shop and currency and things like that.
And a lot of that was, amazingly enough, a lot of that was free labor from the community that did it, which is epic.
That's awesome.
So, but yeah, no, Barovia's just a good example. I mean, we can almost say the same thing at this point with even Exandria. I mean, it's not only just Matt's world anymore. He's created the book. People can utilize it, and you're utilizing the setting that is already out there that gives you the gods. It gives you the city structure. All those things that a newer GM either won't have the time to do, or they're going to be taking so much time to build, where you can kind of pick and pull as you need to.
I'm not a podcast girly, or a like live play girly, so I didn't have much experience with any of like the Dimension 20 or the Critical Role or anything like that. And then I have a new GM here that I just started with, who's so obsessed with Critical Role, so obsessed with it, and he's always saying things like, "Do you know about this?" And I'm like, "No," and he's like, "Well, it's from Critical Role episode blah blah," and I'm like, "Cool, awesome." Like, I
give
know
it to me Barney style, please.
This means nothing.
Yeah. I know base D&D shit. Like, that's about it. That's great. He's like, "What about this?" When we were trying to create characters, he's like, "What about this class that Matt came up with?" But really, like, I thought of it a long time before Matt thought of it. And then so he kind of stole my idea. I'm like, "Okay, dude, cool." Like, do I need to watch the show to play your game? Yes. Yeah. Is that something? Is that a prerequisite for this?
Yeah, I think the Critical Role effect is something familiar to anybody who plays it these days. It's so popular and so large, and so many people have seen it that it affects pretty much every form of D&D, or even just tabletop interaction. Period. Right. I feel like, to Taryn's point, she and I both are very similar in that I feel like we were playing too much tabletop to be able to, or to want to digest all of the massive amounts of tabletop content that there is out there. So
much.
When we started working with D3 at Sea, we got all these people reaching out, and they're like, "Where with this channel? Where with this channel?" And Taryn and I were like, "We're gonna have to look all of this up, because we've been so busy playing these games that we didn't have a chance to like dive into all the really cool communities that they are out there, all the really cool content that there is. There's just like hours, and I mean thousands, hundreds of thousands of hours.
I was going to say your thousands of hours is very underrepresented.
Very modest.
We have so many GMs that reach out and they're like, "I'm with such and such," like they're expecting us to and I'm sure that a lot of people do. And then you go look at their like Instagram followers and you're like, "You have like 1 million followers." Right. I've never, I'm sorry, I've never heard of you. Like, none of the GMs that we've brought on board, at least for me, I was not familiar with any of them, but they have amazing followings, and I think that's incredible. And then I'm over here like, I listen to Dungeons and Dads, or
Dungeons and Daddies is great. That's such a good show.
It's the only one that I listen to, and I don't know why I listen to it. because I
It is-
have no interest
It
in
is
most of them.
just
slap,
pure nonsense.
It is slapstick
Yeah.
silly. That is why you listen to that one. But yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I didn't get into Critical Role until after season 2 had started because of the fact that, and I found it while I was deployed downrange because one of my buddies was like, "Have you ever heard of these guys?" And I was like, "No, I've been playing."
That'd be a good
Like,
thing when you were deployed. Like,
oh
you're always
yeah,
looking for content to consume.
you're
when
always
you're
looking for
bored.
something.
Yeah.
And I mean, we got lucky because we found kind of the same way you were talking is, you get that opportunity to play with so many people. Is like we found multiple branches of the military, multiple countries that were stationed with us as well, and we were all playing together weekly. So
That's
it was definitely the start of what Tabletop Misfits is today was from that deployment. So.
That's like one of the things that I found with tabletop, like coming from a LARPing background, where you're so insular, right? You're a whole community that's all telling one story together. So you're like insta friends, and it's fantastic. And then it's the same with tabletop, where it just brings people together from lots of different walks of lives. Like you have something that you're sharing together, and that's your connection with each other, and then you can grow and build on top of that. Like, I moved out to not Denver, but Colorado 2 months ago, and like the first thing I did was, is anybody starting up a tabletop game? Because I need to make friends. And I did. I found a game that plays on Saturday, the guy that's obsessed with Critical Role, and they play on Saturday, and all of a sudden I have 4 new built-in friends because we're playing a story together,
Yep.
and I get human interaction every Saturday, and it's great.
Well, just a heads up, there is a small convention in August called Tacticon in Aurora.
Oh, okay.
It's more based on wargaming, but
Okay.
the owners also run one in February called Genghis Khan that is all TTRPG based. So
We have talked about Genghis Khan. I moved here too late for us to get a booth there this year, but we have talked about bringing at least
I'm there
something to
every
Genghis Khan
year.
next year. Okay,
they
cool.
fly me out because I write for one of the companies that run that stuff. So
That's
yep,
awesome.
I fly out every year, hang out with everybody out there. So see you
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah, I'll be here. I'll be like, hey, it's a person that I know.
Yeah.
This is great. Yeah.
So, tell us how you guys got involved with D3 at C.
That's a good story. Yeah, Tara and I actually started as guests for E3 at Sea. We went in spring of 2022, which was the first ever D3 at Sea. We had some familiarity with our sister cruise, who was run by the same owners of D3 at Sea. It's called B3 at Sea, which is for board games. Basically, it's the same format, but instead of tabletop campaigns that we play on board, we just have an open board game room. So people who want to go on cruises but are also board gamers, it's a perfect fit. So we had some familiarity with B3 at Sea. So when we heard about D3 at Sea, we were like, oh, that's really awesome. I actually talked to the owner that we work with now. I knew him before D3 launched, and I kind of had talked to him about how there was a market for it. And he looked into it with his business partner at the time, and they were like, yeah, there really is a market for it. But after we went on the first cruise as guests, there was an opening for us to get involved or some of like the logistics and like the idea creative side. Some of the staff changed hands, and I had always told the owner, I was like, hey, if you ever need help, like let me know. And he's like, hey, I know you're a big tabletop gamer, so we could probably use your help. And Taryn had been working a little bit in the, this was during COVID times, right? Because the 2022 was the first D3 at Sea, and it was kind of right after the cruise industry picked back up. But Taryn had been doing some social media work. So, and when the owners asked me if I knew anybody that could help with our social media side, I was like, yeah, Taryn does social media work for other companies already, kind of freelance on the side. So it was kind of a good fit all around. And we were very passionate about D3C. We really liked the first year that we went, and we really wanted to help make it successful. So that's how we got involved, basically.
Yeah, and then eventually we got brought in as actual owners of D3 and B3, so we have even more of an emotional investment in it. Yeah, and it's kind of I mean, it's passion projects, but it's also
Yeah.
more than that at the same time.
Yeah.
Sure. So what can one expect to experience on one of these cruises?
I mean,
Yeah.
a lot, right? I mean, cruising
Yeah.
in itself is already kind of an overwhelming, daunting prospect, especially if you haven't done it before. The ship itself just offers so much to do.
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of stuff you can do. They're always running events and special, like, you know, they'll play movies and hand out popcorn, and just like it's a jam-packed schedule. But what we do is for people who may not be super comfortable just like going out and like making friends with random strangers, right? We kind of give them this built-in community of tabletop RPGs. And so what everybody gets essentially when they come on D3 at Sea is, at its core, we run a small campaign on board where it's usually 3 or 4 sessions of 4-hour long sessions each, with a bunch of GMs who have social media presences, or like we mentioned Jason earlier with Realmsmith, right? They're all very experienced and typically all have some sort of like, not a company, but they have a following, they have a brand behind them usually. So people can sign up for the GM that they want and get to play a little mini campaign. But we don't schedule those on the days where we have, you know, off the boat port times. When the boat is docked, we want to make sure people have a vacation day, you know, for that time period. So we're always having to balance like getting those games in there when we're at sea or when we're not in port, versus letting people get off the boat and do the fun stuff that they want to do and then come back and be ready to play, you know, later. But Taryn mentioned earlier on that we do events. We have karaoke, we have masquerade balls. We do a painting class, a free painting class, and we provide the supplies, the minis and everything. We have a professional mini painter. Yeah, Courtney with figuratively speaking minis. She's amazing. Her work is really, really good, and she's extremely good at hosting the classes and making sure everybody feels, you know, like they know what they're doing and all that.
And
So
then our other big thing is the GM live play.
Oh yeah, that's huge. People, oh, that we're constantly blown away. We are blown away by how passionate everybody is and how much they enjoy the GM live play. It doesn't matter what the story is, but we get most of our GMs, if not all of them, up on a stage and let people come and have drinks and sit down and watch, and you know, people go crazy for it. It's honestly surprising every year. It always exceeds our expectations for what.
So what is GM Live Play exactly?
Well, this past year, it was run by Alec Lockman, who's Alec the Bard. And so all of our GMs are playing in it. And last year was a battle royale, but it was luchador themed, right?
Like a wrestling ring? Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
It was wrestling ring. We had some of our GMs that came dressed up as luchadors, and
I'm not shocked.
yeah, no, it's amazing. Yeah, and then they play the game as the GM like tells it to them. But then also we get audience participation where throughout the week, as they've been playing their campaign, players will get like tokens for doing a cool thing or being a VIP. And they can use that to influence a role. Either give it to the GM to, right, Aaron? The GM can re-roll, or the GM player can re-roll. And it gets insane. Then they can also donate money as well to like buy tokens during the GM live play, and people they'll be like, cool, I'm gonna spend a lot of money. I won't say how much. A lot of money. And we had one roll that got re-rolled, 10, 12, more than that?
Yeah. One of the crucial, I don't want to call it a mistake, but one of the crucial moments where we were like, this is cool, but we need to think about this, was when
rework it.
Alec was kind of like, well, you know, if someone spends a reroll token to cancel someone else's reroll token, and then what happened was it was like a canceling war.
Oh,
where
it's
a
counterspell war.
Yeah.
Oh god.
And I think that after it happened, I think it was maybe we took a break halfway through the GM live play, because that can go for 3 or 4 hours, right? It's a full-on battle royale. We know how long that takes for the D&D system.
Especially with like 10 GMs playing.
Yeah, we had 10 GMs, and when we came back from the break, I had done the math, and I was like, I just want everybody to understand that like where else are you going to see a $700 D20 roll? Because I think once we did the math, $700 had been spent on tokens to try and influence the outcome. Now, this money all goes to the GMs. We really appreciate our GMs. It's kind of a way for us to give back and say thanks and appreciate them more. I mean, they get paid anyway, but it's just a little extra bonus for them. In the future, we're thinking about doing a charity after all the money goes to a charity. Yeah, but it is a really
those will. You think 700 is a lot? You wait until you drop a charity, and those things go nuts.
Yeah.
Gary Con this year alone, we raised $93,000 for charity.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Because one thing nerds do well, we're willing to give money to places that we, things we support. So
especially if they have a favorite GM that they're like. Either they're at their table or they just really like them as a GM. They get very like open wallet. Let me just throw whatever I can at you.
Yep.
It's pretty awesome. And then the GMs put on an amazing show, so it's always that's always one of my favorite parts of the cruise itself. Yeah.
I think one of our GMs, Dice Cream Sandwich, he had his table actually like paying to vote against him. They were like, we are going to antagonize him this entire game. Well, all the other GMs had their table like rooting for them, and Kevin was like, come on guys, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I can see it. I was actually honored to have Kevin on our show right before he blew up. Like right as he was starting, he was getting ready to leave for D3, or not D3. He's getting ready to leave for D&D in a Castle his first time, and he was maybe like first 50, maybe not even 50 episodes in when we had him in here. So
he's great.
Yeah,
he's good.
He is great. Yeah.
But that was go.
No.
You got a question, so you're up.
I do have a question.
Go for it.
Does one have to actually participate and be a TTRPG enthusiast to join D3 at Sea?
Really good. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to. You can basically how it works is we have an NPC rate that we offer, where if it's people who they want to participate in things like the parties and all the events that we do, and we have a private karaoke hour. All of our events are private, right? So it's just going to be the community, the D3 community, the people that is already part of your core group. And that's a significant discount because we don't have to pay a GM for that person, basically, right? We don't have to absorb those costs of paying to have a GM come out, get them on board, and put them up in a hotel for a night or whatever the case may be. So the NPC rates are there for people who still want the community, but they don't need the gaming per se. But even if you are just trying to like come along with people who are hardcore nerds and you're like, you know what, I'd rather just do cruise stuff. I mean, we also have a lot of people that do that as well, where they don't necessarily have to pay a markup at all because they're, if they're not wanting to participate in the events, or if they're not wanting to play at any of the games, then, we can just book them as regular guests, essentially for basically the same cost as what it would be to go through the cruise line direct. But we like to do that to help keep people together, right? Families, more groups of friends. Absolutely, right? Where they're a lot
of people bring their partners that are like, I am not a nerd. They are a nerd. I don't want to do anything with it. And we're like, cool. You can just go sit by the pool and sip your Mai Tais and enjoy your time. And that is fantastic. And then your little nerd will be safe in the room playing their game, and you know where they are at all times. And it's great.
Absolutely.
Anytime they're on the ship, they're in this room, right?
Yeah. We are not responsible for them when they leave the ship. But
we will take care of them while they're on the ship.
While they're on the ship, we are responsible, but otherwise, they are on their own.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And people really seem to enjoy the mix of, like, it is a vacation, but you are still getting to play tabletop at the same time. Like, your hobby as well as your vacation mixed together is a really cool aspect that I think D3 especially has a really niche experience for people. Like, you're still getting the cruise aspect, which in itself is so amazing and always really cool. You're going to really neat places, and there's always food, and I love food.
she's like, there's always food.
There's always food. It's the best. It's 2 a.m. and I'm starving. There's pizza. Okay, Like I'm happy. But then you get the nerd aspect too of like I get to play tabletop for 4 hours a day, on the days that we're playing, and then there's the parties, and then there's the aspect of like we have special lanyards that we get custom made every year for D3 that denotes you as a part of our group. And so it's really cool to walk around the ship and be like, "Oh my God, you're a part of my hey, I know you. Like cool, you want to go get
Yeah.
a drink somewhere or you want to go." We have a lot of people when we're at the ports that will go off together and go do an excursion together or just go get a meal together. And that's something you don't get even as a regular cruiser. Like
Mm.
I've done cruises where it's just me and my partner and it's like it's kind of boring. Like, the like there's
Yeah.
nobody, it's just you two and that's
Yeah.
it. But this part with D3, you get to go out and meet, 80 plus other people,
Mm.
100 plus other people that are into the same thing that you're into. And
Right.
that's just really cool.
You already have a jumping off point with conversing with like complete strangers.
Yeah.
Which as nerds, not an easy thing to do.
Right.
No.
So, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the thing about D3 that I think keeps people coming back year over year. We see a lot of player retention just because of that built-in community that already exists. For some of us, it's hard to do that regularly, but this gives you a great excuse to just come out of your shell immediately because you're like, these are my people, right? And we're all here for the same thing.
Oh,
If you're an
absolutely.
extrovert, which not a lot of us nerds are extroverts, but you can find all kinds of stuff to do on the cruise ship on any cruise. But most of our audience are not those people. I mean, some of
Yeah.
them, but most of our audience are like, I want friends that I know I have things in common with, and I know that they want to hang out with me, and I know that they like me right out the gate. We don't have to talk or have any conversation to figure out how we feel about each other. We just know that we're all part of that D3 community.
And we always do like an icebreaker at the opening ceremonies so everybody gets to know each other and
That
kind of
helps.
get through some of the awkwardness. And then the GMs will have their session 0, and that's when you get to meet your little group. And that really, like, there's people that we met on the very first cruise that I'm still friends with 3+ years down the line that, like,
They're
they're
still
just
coming on the
amazing
group.
people. There's some of them, yes, they're still coming to the cruise. Yeah. And we have a reward for people that come on multiple consecutive cruises. Aaron came up with something called the Dragon Hatchery, which was really cool.
What
Don't
is
get,
that?
Yeah.
And you
don't
can
get me
now
hooked.
introduce
Like,
that,
I
Aaron.
love doing stuff like this.
So yeah, we came up with this idea for because we really liked that we had return players, and we're like, how do we say thank you to the people who are sustaining the business and kind of
Mm.
like coming back year over year for the experience that we're creating. I mean, obviously they get a lot out of it, but it's like we really want to say thank you to the people who we know kind of constitutes our core audience and our core customer base. We were like, all right, let's come up with like a program for people who book early enough, right? So if it's people who are on D3 and they're like, I'm booking for next year right now, we have this whole incentive program for not just those people, but anybody who books basically right after one of our cruises. There's usually about a 2 or 3 month period there that we kind of call the early bird period. But the D3 Dragon Hatchery, what it is it's kind of like a little extra swag program. But what you get is you'll get some dragon themed swag. Where I wish that I actually had known to think about this. I would
I
have gone and
know.
grabbed them so I could have showed them. But yeah, we have these cute little resin dragon eggs that sit on these
Ooh.
LED lit like lava rock bases. And what we do is we have multiple colors. And so people who are in the hatchery, when they come next year, they get one of these little dragon eggs and it comes with a stat block. And you get to use this dragon in your games. And they have like little tiny actions, like a help action once per day, or a little like 2d6 breath weapon. And it matches their color. They have stats. They come with a little birth certificate so you can name them. And then for the guests that keep coming back year over year, every year they get different, better swag and their dragon levels up so that their in-game companion actually gets stronger year over year. And so I tell our GMs every year, I'm like, all right, here's how many people at your table that are going to have this dragon running around,
This
with the
dragon
party.
running around.
Right.
But
Who's
they
got the
start,
ancient dragon?
they
Yeah,
start
even
as
if it doesn't
whelplings.
fit with your
Yeah,
campaign, you're
you
gonna have
better
a little
figure this
dragon
out
in
because
there.
you got
Sorry.
three. It's a level 1
Absolutely.
adventure, and you got 3 level 3 dragons in here. You're in trouble, bud.
Well,
Be ready
they
for it.
start as whelplings, right? And we give the GM fiat where we're like, okay, like we can't just have a dragon running around, but like make sure that this is impactful and these players are really appreciating and like getting benefit out of this. Where dragons are fickle creatures, right? So the GM might be like, that dragon's not around right now, or the dragon, is off doing something else. But we definitely don't want to break the game or make it difficult for our GMs, but it is really cool to get to see everyone at the table and they have their little dragon swag like all laid out on the table, and they have the little stat block in hand. It's great. It's a really cool program that we came up with. People
That
really
makes
cool.
me think of the other. Oh wait, no, that's B3. Why don't we do a dice off on D3?
On B3.
No, well, so on B3, our board game cruise, we have a dice swap, where everybody brings like their really cool sets of dice, and if you want to, you can exchange dice with each other. If somebody has a really cool set that you want and they are willing to give it away, you can. And then we have a D20 roll off, which gets absolutely insane. Where you like pick your favorite D20 and you have to give it a name. It has to have a cool name. And then we have brackets, and you guys roll off against each other, and then the last two people roll off, and the winner gets a prize, and it gets really competitive and really, really fun. And for some reason, we do it on our board game cruise and not on our tabletop cruise.
No, we do it the other way around. We've always done it for the board game or for the tabletop cruise. We have not done it for the board game cruise because the board gamers don't all have
Oh, we
D20s.
did it on D3 next.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
yeah,
thinking of.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, that's not to, boy, we really got off topic here, but we are very
Sorry.
excited to talk about all this stuff. But yeah, the dice exchange is really, really cool. And people do go nuts for just a simple roll off bracket with your D20. We do one bracket for a D20 that you've traded for. We're all dice goblins. So like, I'm sure that if you know that there's a dice exchange coming up, you're going to have a whole bag just for those dice. So we do one bracket where whatever D20, whatever your new D20 is that you traded for, we do a roll off for those, and then we do a bracket where it's just like bring your D20
Yeah.
that you want to have.
As long
Bring
as
the
they're not loaded,
precious.
they
Right,
have to be.
correct.
They
Just
have.
gotta double
We will
check
test
and make
them.
sure none of them
Yeah.
say
That's right.
20 on
Uh-huh.
all sides.
Yeah, exactly. They can't be oversized D20s or yeah, they're just
Right.
regular. But people that make their own dice will like bring sets that they have made to trade with people specifically
Absolutely.
for
Yeah.
D3. It's really cool to
That's
see.
awesome.
I would rank very poorly on the roll offs.
Yeah, you
My
roll.
luck.
You roll like shit.
Hey, hey, I can say it. You can't.
Well, the good news is that when we do those roll offs, I mean, obviously we're not blind to how that happens. So we usually do have special rules for people who roll nat ones, and we actually give away like loser prizes for the
Yeah,
people
we
who
give prizes to people
There
that
you
roll.
go,
never-
buddy.
It's
Yeah.
never really a 1. It's always between 2 and 9.
Oh
There you go.
man.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
even worse than the one.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, can't get the cool theatric
Can't get the cool
portion
prize
of
for
it.
being good. Can't get the cool prize for being bad.
Yeah,
I just get to be
you
bad.
just get to be bad. Yeah, it's all right. You'll be all right. So we once again, this is what happens, right? We spin through this wonderful journey of talking and realize that we're already almost an hour in.
Yeah.
Just a shout out to our audience. If you have questions, make sure you're dropping those in the chat room for us to answer tonight. At this point, Chuck, I'm gonna have you give your main question that you like to ask people.
Well, it might be a little bit different just because it's the cruise, but I'll do it anyway.
Yeah, go for it. They can answer
so
that whatever
actually-
way they want to.
That is true. That is very true. So one of the things that I like to ask is kind of a two-parter question. That being, what has been, as either a GM or a player, your highest high and your lowest low?
You take
Ooh.
that the way you would like to.
Yep.
Aaron, do you want to go first?
I don't. I'd have to think about it. I guess my lowest low has been when a player character dies, and it hasn't happened to me as often as I would like to proclaim that it does. It's honestly pretty rare for me, but I definitely have had a player death where it was like you try to give them chances and you try to give them outs, and it just doesn't work out, and so everyone at the table just kind of realizes in that moment where you're like, this character is gone. Like there's no way out of it. They failed so many times, and there's been so many chances to like save them, but it's just one of those situations where they fall into a bottomless pit or whatever. It's just like you you know that there's no coming back from that, at least short term. So it's never fun for me to do, especially when the players invest so much in their characters. But I do think that, I've learned over the years that, there's ways to give them those moments where it can be really cool and kind of have somewhat of a satisfying wrap up. But just when I'm not expecting it, it always the mood at the table usually does kind of get very dour when something like that happens. I'm not a huge fan of that. What about you?
Lowest low. Um, yeah, as a player, it's kind of weird. Um, I had a GM. We were playing in person, and it was a creepy game, which I love creepy games. Total fan of horror games. But I was playing a character that um, was not a great character because it always wanted to go off on its own. And that doesn't really, it's not really, I was very new to tabletop and I didn't know what I was doing. So I split the party all the time and it was terrible. Anyways, as punishment for that, since we were in person, he took me into another room um, to like act out the scene that my character walks into. Um, and he like crouched down, facing away from me into the corner, and was like, "You see what you see when you walk in the room. We're LARPers. That's just
I got it.
that
Yep.
was the thing. Yeah, yeah." And I walked in. I'm pretending to be my character, and I'm see this creature in the corner, and I was like, "Hello," and then he starts moving like the creature from The Ring, like very unnatural movement. And I found out that I have a trigger,
Oh
and
no.
immediately found out that I have extreme phobia of unnatural movement, which I wasn't a horror girly at that point. Maybe that like broke me, and now that's why I'm a horror girly. But at that point, I was like, I'm calling red. Like, I want out of
Oh
this. Like,
no.
I don't want to be a part of this. Like, please stop. And he was like, not understanding that I was saying Taryn was uncomfortable.
Oh,
And so he kept like
you didn't have a
advancing
safe
on me
word.
like the creature. And so I started crying. And I was like, I don't know if I want to play tabletop anymore.
Oh
Uh,
no.
so
Oh.
that was my lowest low for sure, was realizing that I had a boundary I didn't know about. So that was pretty
That's
bad.
one way to find it.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
I think I came up with my highest high if you need a minute, Sarah.
No, yeah, go for it.
So mine's actually kind of a two-parter, and it's going to sound a little corny to say, but really I think that my highest high in gaming, as neither a player nor a GM, but just being part of D3 at Sea, it is really cool to see a room full of people, like you see at conventions, right, where you have a whole room full of tables going on, and it's a bunch of GMs that you know or you've heard of, or you've met or you've seen them before, and everybody's just sitting down. Some people are in costume. Some people have all this terrain that they have, like just crazy setups, or people might have some quiet music or something playing. It's just really cool to see all of those tiny sort of little communities all together in one space, and you're kind of like, this is something really cool, really special. I think that kind of transcends my gaming experience, because my gaming experience is very like, not selfish, but it's focused on me and my group and what we do. But I'm, as a person, I think I get a lot more satisfaction from externalizing, like sharing that with other people. I mean, that's we all do.
Yeah.
We all love sharing that stuff with other people. So that's absolutely been my highest high. We even had a like a community GM, where we have this program where GMs and tables, if you run an existing table and you guys are all like, we're looking for something cool, this sounds awesome, can we join D3 at Sea? We'll actually hire your GM and pay them just like we do any other GM. They get all the perks and everything, which is really cool. But our community GM from last year, we loved him so much that we were just like, you're going to be on our roster now because of how cool he is. So getting to meet all those people and make all those connections is really kind of transcends the gaming. But that's absolutely my highest high. The more I thought about my highest high as a player or a GM, it's kind of like, it really doesn't compare to getting to see everyone else have some of their highest highs. So DM Charlie Branson's his name, was our community GM, and
He's awesome.
he took his group that had been playing for a year or so online, never met in person. He convinced them all to go on this cruise and have their grand finale of their whole campaign on the cruise. And it was
Oh
just
wow.
really cool to see
Yes.
communities like that show up and have amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
and
that
he's
that sounds like
awesome.
a really cool thing.
It is.
Mhm.
Like,
It's very special. Yeah.
Especially because we work all year round to make this happen, and then to see it come to fruition, it's a really,
right.
really cool feeling to see
Yeah.
your work pan out and see everybody having a good time. It's like when you're at a concert and you're all grooving to the music and you get that like weird communal spirit vibe. And I'm not a vibe girly, but that's just what it feels like. And you're just like, this is really cool. Like, how neat that
Well,
we brought
it,
this together.
yeah, it feels like it's a culmination of, you put all this effort into it for like at least a year, maybe more
Yeah.
whenever you're planning it. And you're probably hit low times where you're like, is this even worth it? And then you hit the cruise and everything runs relatively smoothly. I'm sure there's hiccups, but overall it's a success and you're like, look at the shit we just put together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although
Yeah.
it is even more heartbreaking though when things don't go according to plan
Yes.
and it's out of your control and there's nothing you could do. And
Sure.
that part definitely sucks, but generally it's paid off in really big ways. And even when things haven't really worked out, we still have a really strong community coming out of that regardless because we all we got to do is provide the spaces and give people the barest amount of instruction on what to do with that space, right? Go play tabletop or go sing karaoke or whatever, and you kind of our community, we all know, is can be very welcoming and very friendly, and people really find a home there, I think, which is what we want, right? We want people to have those safe and fun spaces to do the stuff that they love doing.
Yeah, it's a blast for us, especially at dinner time because we have group dinner. So everybody all sits together and the GMs all mingle in with the people. And so we try to sit with different groups every single night. And it's cool for us to hear, like, what was the highlight of your game today? Like, what did your character do that was really cool? Like, oh, did you have a shitty roll? Like, tell me what you know, it's just really neat to hear yeah, hear how their day was impacted and how their vacation has been, and it's because of all of our work as well as the GMs, and it's pretty awesome. So, um, yeah, the lows are low for sure, but the highs are really really high, and
Yeah.
that makes it worth it. Even D3 at Sea Next, which was Aaron and I's kind of pet project idea where we wanted to have because with D3 we do a full week campaign. So it's the same table, the same GM, and they run a story for the whole week. And Aaron and I had the idea of wouldn't it be cool to have a week of one shots with different systems that you may never have gotten to play before, and with different GMs running them, right? Like everybody knows D&D, you might know Shadowrun, like the big ones, but we wanted to introduce GMs that were growing in their community, so not the bigger names,
Hmm.
as well as running games and systems that were lesser known, even ones that they wrote themselves. Like we encourage that. And we thought that was a really, really cool idea. And we didn't have quite as much interest in it as we were expecting. We had, what, 20 players?
Yeah,
Less than?
round about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
around there. And so when we went into the cruise, we were like, man, this is kind of a bummer. Like, not many people showed up, are they going to have a good time? And then it turned out to be one of the best cruises. Like, everybody had a blast. The GMs had a really good time. They run great systems. And it was really cool to see, you know, even though we thought it didn't really work out, those people that came along had an awesome time. And that was really all that mattered for us. So, yeah, it was a good time.
So mission accomplished.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Would it have been nice to make more Kevin sales? Absolutely. But
Yeah.
but that was a mission accomplished for sure. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And you said
Yeah. And now
that was a smaller cruise too. It was like
yeah, it was a shorter cruise. It
three
was
day,
a four
4 day.
day, right?
Mm.
Yeah, 4 day. And a lot of it was we had a lot of port days because they try to shove a lot of ports in too. So um, we didn't have as much time for gaming, but people still had a really good time. And yeah, and the systems were really cool that they got to run. Aaron likes running unusual systems, so
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
good.
If I had to pick another highest high, it would be the moment that that every GM has that moment where you explore different systems, and when you find the one that like works the best for you as a GM, even if your players hate it, just some of those systems that you find and you run it, you're just like, this is my mecca. Like the way this system runs is perfect in my brain. That's another good. But yeah, D3 Next was actually, it was our first ever D3 Next. So it was smaller because we'd never tried it before. We'd never actually tried running 3 cruises a year. Normally it was just two. So it was kind of a test bed. That's why we call it D3 Next, because it's like, what's next for D3 at sea? It
Mm.
could be all sorts of stuff. But that one that we ran in March this year was focused on women and gender non-conforming GMs and systems that are created or being run by those types of people. That's something that we're really passionate about, and we wanted to dedicate a whole cruise to it. We're working on expanding that for sure in the future, because we that passion will never die down for us.
Yeah,
Yeah, at
definitely.
D3, we are having tables specifically for women and gender non-conforming people run by GMs that are also in that community. Because we personally, like, I spent 2 years playing at a women-only table, and it was one of the best gaming experiences that I've ever had. It's such a unique experience to get to play with people that are walk the same paths as you in life, to put it nicely. Um, Not to say that I don't enjoy playing with men and cis men, but there is a bit of a different dynamic when you get to play at a table with just women, especially. Like, it takes playing to a whole other level. It's really cool. So we really wanted to make that an experience that our D3 players could get to have an opportunity if they wanted. Obviously, we have tons of other tables that you can play mixed gender as much as you want, but we thought it might be a cool uh, initiative for people to get to experience. So we'll see how it goes this year.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about something, and I don't know if it's even something you guys have thought about. What about kids?
Yeah, we have thought about it. I think currently we haven't had enough people trying to bring their kids along. Now, if they're teenagers, we'll slot them in at any table, right?
Oh yeah.
Which is fine. But we have had some people ask about that, and we absolutely have sort of like a program kind of waiting in the wings for the opportunity. I don't know necessarily that we are looking to expand into like children's tabletop, but we absolutely can. It just hasn't really been an opportunity to do so yet. But I think once the opportunity arises, we have some GMs that have experience specifically in that arena running tabletop for kids of certain ages, and it's definitely something that I think we could 1,000% accommodate. I mean, just with the right GM, someone
Mm.
that has experience, doing that sort of thing. Most of our GMs, they're going to run games. We like to let our GMs run what they want to run. So while we do use lines and veils and we do use the X card system, and the GMs get that feedback ahead of time so they can kind of mitigate what they want to run with the players who've chosen to sign up at their table. Um, it's definitely, we don't want to tell the GMs like, well, you got to run a kids table, right?
Right.
We have some GMs that specifically are like, I've done this before, I know how to do it. And it's like, great, we need someone with that experience. But
Yeah.
it's on the roadmap, and I think really we're just waiting for an opportunity for someone to say, hey, I'm bringing 6 kids. Like, can you handle that?
Not bringing
Yeah,
Yeah, we know
six.
someone
especially.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do know. I know somebody like that. You're right.
Well, especially if it was a group of kids that are all going to play at the table together. Like, I think that
Yeah.
some people might not enjoy their experience if it was just one child at a table full of adults. They would be more censored, I feel like, than they might want to be. But if we could get people that were like, hey, I'm bringing 5 children, with me, and we could have a table just for the kids, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah,
Um, but understanding as well that the majority of the people that go on D3 are adults, and it's kind of hard to ask them to, again, censor themselves around
Mm.
children. So
yeah,
the parties and stuff, we do sometimes have alcohol served there, um, and yeah, so it's with the understanding that you still have to be a parent. You can't just drop your
yeah.
child off. This is not daycare. Like, but
Yeah.
I think that would be really, really cool for people to get to bring their kids on board. Yeah.
Yeah. Cruise ships are generally really kid friendly. They do have places
Mhm.
where they can drop their kid off if they want, but specifically letting kids sit down and play tabletop, geared towards their age group and with other kids their age would be really cool. And I think the first opportunity we have to do something like that, we absolutely can advance. So
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah. Tonight, my son literally was like, "Hey, Dad, when do I get to come on and like host with you?" And I was like, "What? Like, when did you start thinking about doing this?"
Oh, I think that's awesome. I
So,
love hearing about parents that are introducing their kids to tabletop. Like, I have a lot of friends that have younger children that are starting to get interested in their parents' hobbies. And it's really cool to see them post and be like, I'm running my old GM is running a tabletop game for his grandson. And then a couple of their friends are playing at it. And it's just really cool to see how excited he was when he was like, my grandson wants to play D&D.
yeah.
Like, it's just really cool.
Yeah. Last
That's
weekend we did a game. Chuck was here, and it was both his daughter and my son playing as well, and it was a lot of fun.
that's
It was my
awesome.
daughter's first time doing it, and she was a little trepidatious at first, but by the end of it, she was really starting to get the feel for it and
Yeah.
really get into it.
Yeah.
And my son dove in like it was nothing. Like it's crazy.
Well, consider who his dad is.
What can I say? And we've even developed it to the point where I can get my 6-year-old in as well. So
Oh, that's awesome.
that is a little more difficult and a little less
Mm.
timing because we get about an hour and a half in before he's like, I'm good.
I'm bored. Yeah.
Um, though I've spent enough money now on things like Dwarven Forge, so instead of
Mm.
keeping me building everything, I let them build it as it's
Nice.
being told, or let them just build it and come up with the story as it's being built in front of me. And that seems to have kept their interest a lot more than uh, just talking and telling a story. So
Well, and I bet they're great storytellers too, because I feel like they probably aren't as bound by the rules as we are. Like no, yeah.
not at all.
All I think about is like, well, I can't do that because the rules say that I can't do that. So I'm just not going to bother trying. Even if the
Yeah.
GM has the rule of cool, uh, it's still, I put the limitations on myself. And I feel like kids would be like, I can do whatever.
Yeah. My
Like,
son
this
has
is.
never read the book. I mean, he's picked up the book and it's like, "This looks cool, Dad." Like, yeah, let's do that. And my 6-year-old has never even picked up a book. He was just like, "I want to play because you're playing." And I was like, "All right, we'll play."
Yeah.
Um, and like I said, we simplified it. We give them I give them a D10 for their skill checks. I give
Yeah.
them a D6 for their weapon. That's it. That's all they get, and it's put on their little character sheets. I'm like, okay, this is what you use for this. This is what you use for this. This is what you use. Okay, we're done. And one of them picked a spellcaster, so they got a D6 for their spells and a D4 for their weapons. One person picked a fighter, so they just swapped it around. They both got spells. They just didn't get the strong ones. Um, and then they would roll a d4 and then have to go into the box of terrain and build based on how many pieces they rolled. And then that was
That's awesome.
how we built the story. And yeah, it was. We thought it was only gonna last like I thought it was only gonna last like 45 minutes, and it was almost 2 hours. And everybody's. I was like, I think it's time to go. Like, it's getting late, guys. And they're like, fine. I was like, we've come to a conclusion. Uh,
Yeah.
so, and using their toys and things like that as part of the story has definitely helped as well. Like it's not just D&D stuff. I had a Lego toucan that was giving them hints to things, and it was just random stuff. And I don't
That's
ever
cute.
play kid games, so it was a new experience for me. So
There are writers out there that are writing children specific tabletop systems and stories modules as well, which is really cool.
yeah.
And I have a couple of teacher friends that use it as a part of their way to teach math, which is
Hmm.
really neat. Um, and
We were
and the
doing that.
creative, yeah, it's really awesome. So yeah, so we will potentially. I mean, if you guys want to bring your kids on, we'll run a table for
I'll
them.
find a table for them.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, I can probably gather a group of people who want to go on a cruise. I was like, and most of
Yeah.
them will have kids, so I'll be
Yeah,
helping.
we know one in particular who would bring a whole table worth.
Ooh.
Yeah.
He's got 6 kids on his own. So,
Wow.
He's got a table right there.
Yeah,
That's
there's
a
your
whole
table
table
right
right
there.
there. Yeah.
Now, I don't know if
So
they'd
maybe
want to
two
be.
tables for children.
I don't know if they'd really want to be all at the same table because it's all their siblings. Like I think we'd have to kind of,
Mm.
but But yeah, no, this has been a lot of fun to talk about, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
curious to see where D3 at Sea goes.
We have big plans for the future for sure. Aaron, and I don't know if you want to introduce the European cruise that we've been talking about.
Well, we've definitely been exploring doing river cruises in Europe, and right now we're pretty close on. We haven't announced it yet, so it's kind of like a sneak peek, behind the scenes thing. But we're definitely planning on having a river cruise in some form or fashion for next year or the year after that goes to places like Bran Castle in Romania, which is the castle where supposedly Bram Stoker lived there when he was writing his Dracula or something along those lines. That's their claim to fame. I don't know that that's true, but it is kind of cool to say that you're going to get to go to Dracula's castle to play tabletop and have like a masquerade party there.
Yeah.
So
Sign me up. Take my money.
yeah,
Yeah.
Sign me up. Chuck's already throwing money at
Jesus.
it.
right.
Take my money. God
That's
damn.
what we're hoping. That's what we're hoping, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we're really working hard on that because it's something that we've been trying to do for years and it hasn't been the right time yet. And so we're trying to get all of the pieces in place before we launch it. And we really think everyone we talk to about it says the same
Yeah.
thing. They're like,
Zach
this
from Zach Knox
want
from the channel said Vampire the Like, could you
Yeah.
imagine doing that? Like a
Vampire
full
the
Vampire the
Masquerade.
Masquerade LARP
yeah,
at
yeah.
Braun's Castle? Oh,
That's
it'd be
another
so
thing
good.
we've been talking about is introducing a LARP
LARP
cruise.
cruise? It's like,
LARP
hold up.
cruise.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
Our other owner, Don, who's the one that kicked off all of this, he's our travel expert. He has a fascination with Vampire the Masquerade, even though he's
Ooh.
never played it before.
Mhm.
And he really wants to do a LARP cruise, which would really only work on a river cruise where you get to rent out the entire boat for just your people.
Mm.
Because really, could you imagine being on
A
a
full
cruise
cruise
and
ship.
seeing, yeah, like
Yes.
That
five
would be
people
even
dressed as
better.
vampires running around? Like,
It's Ghost
yeah,
Ship.
Yeah.
it would be something else for sure.
So
But yeah,
curious on this because I know you do see boat cruises and or not book. Goodness gracious, I can't talk tonight. Book cruises
yeah.
where the entire cruise is built around that model. What would you be looking at? And I know this is a crazy thought, but what would you be looking at to have to take over an entire cruise in
I
people?
mean, it scales. So like a European river cruise is maybe 100 to 150 cabins. So that's a pretty attainable goal.
Right.
Obviously, that a European river cruise, those boats are smaller on purpose because they're on the river. They have to fit under bridges. There's all sorts of reasons why
Right. Right. Right.
those boats are a lot smaller. But I mean, if D3 at Sea grew to be in the thousands of cabins of attendees, we could rent out a small ocean liner and then scale up from there. I think some of the big ships that they've recently, like I think MSC and Royal Caribbean recently, within the past year or two, or within the next year or two, are going to launch these massively huge ships that I think have something like 7 or 8 thousand cabins on them.
We can
So I
start
mean,
small. We can
yeah,
try to get it 1,000.
imagine, right? Imagine having a basically a 7,000 person convention on a basically a floating city that
Yeah.
you get to be a nerd all day long, and then you wake up and you get off the boat in Bermuda
Yeah.
or somewhere in San Juan or who
So
knows.
so let's think this through real fast because I go to Gen Con every year.
yeah.
What is an average cost right now to go on D3?
So D3 at sea right now, depending upon the type of cabin that you want and whether you have multiple players or if you're a player and you're traveling with an NPC, typically it runs about 2 grand and some change per person. I think it goes from like it's usually starting rates goes from 2,200 to about 2,600 somewhere in there. But that includes your travel to all the destination ports. I mean, obviously you have to get to the port where you leave, but then you get to go to all these cool cities. You get basically unlimited food. A lot of times with the cruises that we book, you'll get unlimited alcohol. We try to target that. Not every cruise line does that. Royal won't do it, but Norwegian's pretty good about it, and MSC definitely does do it. Those are other cruise lines we work with. So you get free alcohol all week, free food all week. All your travel, your board, your room and board is paid for, right, in that cost. So you don't have to worry about where you're staying or what the Airbnb rules are. You don't have to think, what am I going to eat tonight? Like, where are we going to go? How much is that going to cost us? And then drinks on top of that. You don't have to do it. The first time I ever
I'm just
went on a
throwing this
cruise,
out there because an average person at Gen Con
Yeah.
spends just in hotel alone $400 a night.
correct.
If you're there
Yeah.
five nights, that's already $2,000.
Yeah.
You've already
Yep.
paid $400 for your ticket to get into Gen Con, so we're already $2,400, and I'm
There you
only there
go.
for 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm just letting
Whereas
people
we're
know, like, we can
7
do a
days.
full crew. Like, I should be
Yeah.
able to fill 1,000 cabins easy if I'm grabbing Gen Con crew. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you're getting
Absolutely.
a ton of swag. You're getting a custom built story from the GM for 4 sessions, 3 sessions, 4 hours.
Usually four, yeah, it depends on the schedule. Some of the GMs actually write and publish their modules, and they'll provide free copies to their players and their tables. So yeah, there's a million more perks on top of just room and board and food and drink. Obviously, you get a crazy experience, and you get to wake up and walk off the boat in exotic locations that you
Yeah.
would have never visited if you were just going to Gen Con, right? Like
Whereas
That's
if
what
you're,
that's what I'm
yeah,
saying. You know,
if you're going to Gen
$2,500
Con, you
really
have to
isn't that
buy
big
all
of a
that swag. You have to buy any game that you want to play in.
yeah.
You have to walk around for hours on end.
Hours.
And
Hours
if
on.
you go
Although the
back
boats.
year after year, you get a dragon.
Yeah, that's
The
true.
dragon
Because
thing's really selling me. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie.
Uh-huh.
I'm
We
a
also
huge
have
dragon fan.
our level up program, which is a special program that we have for people that want to pay just a little bit extra, where they get to choose their own GM before everybody else. So you get first pick of your GM. You get extra swag. You get a special excursion just for level up people, which is really, really cool. Last year was a private yacht that went out into the Sea of Mexico. Aaron, where were we?
we were right on
Where
Baja
were we?
right? So I don't remember what the body of water right there is, but
Yeah.
we went down the Mexican Riviera. So there's that, really, really long like peninsula stretch of land. I think it's called Baja Sur or California Sur maybe. But yeah,
Up in California, huh?
Yeah.
we took a 70-foot yacht out there with we had about 20, 25 level up guests where the level up came about because people were literally asking us, they're like, how do we get a little bit more? Like, we love what you're doing, but we want more than just, what you're offering already. And a big part of that was people would sign up and they'd be like, I don't care about your swag. I don't care about your events. I just want to make sure I sit at my favorite GM's table. And it's like, how do I do that? Like, I will just throw money at you until we solve this problem. So there's a lot of really cool perks with the level up program that we do year over year. But yeah, the like exclusive excursions that we do. I think this year we're going to do some private villas on a beach where we're going to do some gaming there. There's going to be food and drinks and things like that. So that'll be a lot of fun. But we try to do something sort of private and really chill to kind of create that little sub community that of people who really want to get that extra bit.
And the level up automatic. Do the level up automatically get the dragon?
They don't, but they should.
They
I feel like.
should. That's a
Yeah.
good
Just saying.
point. Yeah.
Look at us already
They,
helping you make decisions.
I know. Thank you.
they do get a lot. I will say that, typically if people book and they're like, we really want the dragon, we're pretty lenient about it.
We really
But,
want the dragon.
Really just want the dragon.
Yeah.
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 I mean, the dragons are really cool. The second
Yeah.
stage dragon is a pouch or a little stuffed
Plush.
dragon plush. Thank you. That you can push the. Is it in its mouth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You put your dice in its mouth and then it sits in its belly and then you
Yeah.
can open up its back and get your dice out. But it's basically a dice pouch that's
Yeah.
a giant plush dragon.
I'm kind of.
That's really, really cool and cute.
You might get a
We had a
random
lot of
message.
people.
You might get a random message like, "How can I buy this?" Like outside
Right.
of this.
Yes. There's a lot of people that are like, how do I
How do I get a hold of that one?
Just that.
Just that.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of leads to what I want to kind of, I guess we can almost wrap up with this one. It's like how do we find you guys? How does anyone go find you and sign up to be part of the next cruise? When is the next cruise?
That is a good point. So we are on all the social medias. We're on almost all of them. You can find us at D3 at Sea. And we also have a website that Aaron so lovingly built called that's d3atsea.com. And our next cruise is this October slash
Yep.
November. It's like right over Halloween.
Yep. It sure is. We'll have a Halloween masquerade party. It's the 25th through the 1st. So
Yeah.
25th of October to the 1st of November. It's actually not our first Halloween cruise. We had a really cool Halloween masquerade party in 2023. And so this year we're going to do another Halloween sailing and get all the cool Halloween stuff that happens on the ship too. So that's actually, when you guys were talking about the LARP cruise, I was like, if you do a Halloween cruise, you'll fit right
You
in.
fit
Yeah.
right in with everybody else.
It's
People
already
bring
built
their
into it.
full-on cosplays. Like, it's really cool. People go all out for the masquerade parties. It's really fun. And this one is going out of New Orleans.
Mhm.
Yep, which is going to be extra cool because it's right around Halloween in New Orleans, which is always awesome. So before the cruise itself, if anybody gets in early, we have a pre-cruise excursion where we're going to do a ghost tour
Yeah.
in New
There you
Orleans.
go.
So that'll be really fun. Yeah, so it goes out in New Orleans and is going to. Hmm.
Uh-huh.
It's
Yep.
it's doing Western
Thank you.
Caribbean. So we're gonna go to a bunch of different locations. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but I could look it up.
Oh, it's
Pretty fun
Western
places.
Caribbean. I mean,
Western
we
Caribbean, yes. A lot of hot places. We tend to go to a lot of hot places, which
Yeah,
we're hopefully going to be going to Alaska sometime soon. We did Alaska for our B3 at sea one year, and it was awesome.
yeah,
So much fun. So I'm really hoping that we'll get to do it for D3 soon.
yeah.
Do you have the
D3,
ports?
yeah, D3 this year is Cozumel, which is a really popular port in Mexico. Harvest Caye is a private Norwegian like island, which is a really nice little location for the day if you want to do a beach day or something like that. Then we go to Roatan and Costa Maya. So Roatan's more of like an eco destination where there's a lot of really cool excursions where you get to meet animals or go on really cool nature hikes, ropes courses and stuff like that. And then Costa Maya is another great beach location. So a lot of sort of like the western half of the Caribbean
nice.
cruise ports that you typically see.
Yeah,
Awesome.
really, really fun. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I only have one final question, and it looks like everybody's been really active in the chat, but nobody's had any questions, which probably just means we're asking a whole bunch of questions as we're talking.
That's
Yeah.
And that is, what is one tip or trick that you use at your table as a player or a GM that you think others should try at theirs?
Mm. Oh boy, that's a really good question.
I
Full of
haven't
them.
been doing this for a while.
yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I mean, I would say that the thing that I've learned recently that I think has added the most to my table is not being so caught up in the like the personhood of the narrative, meaning like don't necessarily limit yourself to only telling your players what their characters see because while that is very immersive, sometimes I have found that it's very fun and for the players to get information that their characters might not get. And I got this from watching another GM. It was probably years ago, and I think their catchphrase is "What your characters don't see is." And then they talk about something that might be happening that their characters have no idea, but it adds tension to the players where they're like, oh, my character didn't see that, but like now I know, and like, oh, what's going to happen next, right? So it's a good way to hype your players up with information that their characters might not necessarily know, but it helps with the world building where like they feel the world being built and that it's bigger than just their character's perception of the world. I think that's my number one thing recently that I've really like dove into that I think really helps a lot with excitement at the table. I mean, we all know that the most immersive games, you still might have players nodding, right? And that's because it's not always exciting to be immersed in whatever's going on. So adding that little bit of like what your characters don't see is giving them something really exciting to think about as a player. I think it's
Ooh,
my number one.
I like that one.
Yeah.
I think for me, coming from more of a player background, with my really awesome one GM time, I mean, I touched on it earlier, but playing interesting characters, I feel like really adds to the experience for everybody at the table. when I create a character, I try to. I mean, and most like character builders will give you like put in a quirk or a flaw, um, or an addiction or something, and a lot of systems have that built in. But I think that every system should have that built in, where every character should be more dimensional. Like, I mean, it's really fun to do things like build a music playlist for your character. That was the thing we learned in LARPing. Like, everybody built a character playlist, and then you would listen to it before you got to the LARP, and then you were like in the mood. Um, but I find I have more fun when I build characters that are multidimensional and are not just, especially with your background, like don't have your background solved. Like don't have a dragon destroyed my hometown and then I killed a dragon and like that's it. Your character's arc is already over before you've even started the game. Um, so yeah, so obviously leave the story open ended because your character isn't dead yet, um, and make your character more dimensional by giving them what a human would have. Like, yeah, they have positive traits because they're a paladin, but like, what makes it difficult for them to follow their paladin vow? Like, what, uh, do they have embarrassing memories that might crop up? Is there like, you know, something weird about them? Like, yeah, just it makes them more dynamic and makes it easier for you to get into the character if there's more to them than just a class and a race and a name, and that's it.
Yeah,
That's my
I've
thought.
always said that the most memorable moments at the table rarely come from the party's triumphs, but
Mm,
from their failures. Right? The your character's weakness is almost always more interesting and more memorable at the table than their strengths.
Oh
So
yeah,
I like
definitely.
that. I like that perspective there of like telling your story from the perspective of what you're not good at instead of hyper focusing on what your character is good at. Because no
yeah.
one's going to remember the nat 20 that you rolled in the great moment. I mean, not no one, but when you roll a natural one, or if you try to do something that you're not good at, but you succeed anyway, like the moments where you're not supposed to succeed, those are the ones that
Those are the
the
fun ones. Correct.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too easy to min max and like you can still build your character the way that you want to build it, but putting more flavor into them than just Joe Schmo the barbarian, it's gonna make the story way more interesting. And your GM is probably gonna be way more interested in your character if you're flawed and interesting
Giving them
and
something that they can work
yeah,
with.
right, exactly, instead of a amorphous
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, that's the best to me.
Well, I mean that sums it up, right? Like we do this not just to tell the superhero story, but the full story. And tonight the full story was the incredibleness of D3 at sea. I'll tell you what. This sounds
Yeah.
awesome. If it wasn't for the fact that I'm traveling literally that month beforehand, I probably would go sign up, but I can't pull that
Yeah.
off.
There's always next year.
There's always
Yeah.
next year,
Yep.
and who knows? I might try to recruit and just do the community program if I can. We'll see.
Yeah.
We love community tables. We really do. It's really cool to have people that are either already a community or they found themselves, in a community where they are just like, let's do this. We're all going to commit to it. It's great.
The
Yeah,
best.
that'd be awesome. Well, thank you, Aaron and Taryn, for coming on
Yeah.
tonight's Tavern Talks. It's 150, so it was a big number, anyways, and having you guys on was great to have that opportunity. Um, Definitely go out, check out their next cruise that comes out in, you said March? Or
No.
no, October. Goodness gracious.
October.
No,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Halloween cruise of
Yeah.
next
He's
year.
not listening.
I am
It's
listening.
fine.
Yeah,
Getting
we'll have some
tired.
exciting stuff to announce probably over the next year. I do see it expanding, and we'll have more options for people that prefer different travel dates and have different schedules and stuff like that. That's something that
Awesome.
we're heavily looking into. So
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That is
yeah,
awesome. Well, we'll keep an eye out on it and see where this goes because I can't wait to hear in a couple years where the entire
Yeah.
cruise is D3 at sea and
Yeah.
not just a part of it.
The whole ship of nerds.
The whole ship of nerds.
Yeah. Maybe
so
we'll be
down.
able to quit our day jobs someday and do
Hey,
this full time.
if you can, I'll help you out. We'll all be
Right?
good. Well, anyways, it was so much fun to have you guys on the show, and I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
This week, tomorrow, you've got Beaker builds again.
Yeah.
Correct.
I'm hoping so. If I can get the car, if I
you can get the car
remember
running.
to stop working on the car. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a car.
Yeah, I know your car's acting up. Sorry, bud. Real quick, just give a quick shout out to our sponsors. Monument Studios is all the wonderful music that's happening in the channel tonight, along with all of our other shows. Canadian Dice is our dice sponsor for the year. 15% off any with the Misfit 15 code. And if you're looking for apparel for both Misfits and Beaker, head on over to Dungeon Grandmaster. He's our official apparel sponsor. Next week, I need to do this more often, but I don't ever look until it's too late. Where is my notes? That's the wrong channel, so that doesn't help. Yeah, so what we're trying to do right now is I'm trying to get next week's guest, so I know what's going on. And I'm not seeing it pop up on my screen, so that's not helpful. Let's see here, where am I at? Is it this one? I only have 6,000 different accounts too to look through, so it doesn't help. We have Mike Dunn from Game Trend Magazine. So we're going to be talking about how they rate TTRPGs and games like that, as well as what they're doing in their space. This Monday, we go back to Icewind Dale as we continue to add new guests to our stream. As I believe we've got 1 to 2 coming in this week, and they get ready to venture off towards the Shardland Dragon sooner or later, but they've definitely been ready for it. So everyone, raise your glasses high. This is Tavern Talks, and we'll see you guys all next week for another wonderful guest. Stick around real fast as we raid one of our friends and close out for the night.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.